29 years ago, student Zhu Ling was poisoned in Tsinghua University. For quite a while until she was diagnosed as thallium poisoning. Because of missing the best time of treatment, Zhu Ling suffered lifelong disability and left behind severe sequelae. 1 year later, Beijing Police Bureau investigated into the Zhu Ling poisoning case. But in the following 29 years, however, this case has remained unresolved, became a famous unsolved case in the history of China's criminal justice. What is the background of the criminal suspect's family? The leader growing up in Shanghai, General Secretary at the time. During the case investigation, did the police get sufficient evidence? What kind of evidence can be left? The suspect is among her classmates. Why a seemingly not complicated poisoning case cannot be resolved? That directive also put pressure to the police system. Please listen to Wang Ji podcast interviewing Bei Zhicheng, the main witness to the poisoning case. Your interview is sensitive, so let's reduce chit-chat. Okay, let's start.
好嘞，那咱们就开始啊。那贝志
Zhicheng, recently there is info online saying Zhu Ling got brain cancer. Did you know this? I know, because I still have a connection with my middle school mates. Generally, her situation is not good. Actually, her family hopes she can pass her 50th birthday. But she did pass her 50th, November 24th. Yeah, then did you go to hospital to visit her? For this case recently? No. Actually, for such a sad incident, I am a little scared about it. And though this incident draws public attention, ultimately the victim remains in an unhappy situation. So the total times I visited her for the past decades, not that many. About brain cancer, how did you know about that? From my schoolmates. Middle schoolmates told me. Did they tell you in a WeChat group? Nope, I didn't participate in groups. Just some good friends messaged that info to me. Do you know her parents' situation? Parents' situation, generally, I would say her parents are old for our generation. But I think her parents have a strong will. Their strong faith supported them. I saw some online information saying Zhu Ling's health situation is pretty bad. Yeah, very bad. So everybody might be prepared for the final outcome. Because her health is pretty bad, the poisoning case became hot on internet again. Some people want me to talk about it. I think a better idea is to find a witness to talk about it. That's why I invited you. Well, for the discussion over internet, including for today, before our talk, firstly, I didn't do any preparation. I didn't intend to be interviewed, but later on I found you. Your status might be a good fit. So I accepted this interviewer. I don't quite care what was discussed over internet. Then, this discussion became very hard, very a few years, including this time. I also asked a friend in China on China's network because she got cancer, right? Then discussion became hot again. But it seems the internet started to control the public sentiment, didn't allow people to broadcast the discussion. I'd say certain departments still care about this. What I know about this situation is that I encountered a high order of Beijing Police Bureau. We were happily chatting, we were discussing other topics, but for this case, they don't want to talk about it. In fact, they appear to feel that this case is a shame. But in China, you can also consider this as controlling public sentiment. I think it's common though. For this particular case, it was revealed on Tianya Forum in 2006. People in our age should remember more clearly, but which is more clear to the public, would be the discussion on Weibo in 2013. But at the time of Tianya, I was a little nervous because seemingly only me was there. So I asked a classmate introducing me to Gong'an University to introduce me to two professors in criminal investigation. My first question to them, I said, for this case, I couldn't say the criminal is 100% Sun Wei, but I might think saying Sun Wei. Her parents also believe so. I mean, Julian's parents also believe so. Then I say I heard a concept named the presumption of innocence, right? If I point her as criminal, is she okay? Then the two professors told me two situations. Firstly, they told me they read some info about this case. Case record? I'm not sure if it was a case record. I mean, we are at this age. We need to speak with caution. The professor said, firstly, for this case, they think 90% criminal was Sun Wei. Then, secondly, they told me one point. They said the college criminals have two characteristics. One characteristic is that their motivation is different from the criminals already in society, like envy. He told me the reason of envy is various. And college students have a relatively fragile psychology. Does it mean the criminal may not be based on interest conflict? Exactly. So you can see later poisoning cases related to college students. The motivations were various. They don't like some deep hates of the criminals who are already in society. Second is college students do not have a good anti-investigation ability. They don't have as much society experience. So basically, they poison others using what they can easily get. They didn't cover much of the poison, like a later poison case in Peking University, in Fudan University. So the professor said, for this case, it was interfered. So these were the words from the professor. Secondly, he explained to me, presumption of innocence is only used for court trial. It's a concept for court trial. Police pre-investigation doesn't follow this concept. Every suspect police investigated. If not reaching the stage of court trial, police can assume the person is suspected, then to search evidence. Generally, these two teachers gave me these words. The teacher told me that we police people handled many cases. For this thallium poisoning case, it should be relatively easy. Just when we got initial evidence, the experienced investigator can lock down the criminal with 99% confidence. And when the truth was revealed, what do I mean by truth revealed? I mean, similar cases to this criminal, but the professor also told me a very few cases might be weird. It was in the confidence interval of 1%, a very edge case or other circumstances. Professors told me, as a police, as long as you haven't used torture, you don't forge evidence, then there's no wrong of you. Yeah, exactly. But the public may be concerning is, for the thallium poisoning case, why didn't it get resolved at the time? When we later on review it, this case is not that complicated, but never got resolved. How did you view this? This case is indeed not complicated. I fear from what I was young to later on, I heard many statements or explanations. Some statements, because I was attacked when I said it from my mouth, but in fact, if you read the book written by Li Jiajia, this claim was not firstly known by me. Do you mean the claiming saying Sun Wei is a suspect? Right. No matter a claim saying Sun Wei is a suspect or the case was interfered, what I fear most is this is a deep sadness and a regret. And secondly, I think this case reveals various embodiments of mainland China. Then for the incident of Zhu Ling, I think Zhu Ling, a girl growing up in Beijing, and she was outstanding, though I was her classmate when I was in grade 8. I was sort of good at study, but very naughty, and she was a very good student. So in middle school, I could feel we were different types of students. We didn't have much connection, and to be honest, in her 9th grade, or maybe 8th grade, because the passing away of her sister, she became isolated a bit. She might be only associating with her good girlfriends. I mean, in middle school and high school, she didn't have conflicts with others, but she might be not quite social with others. But she won't hurt anybody. She was just isolated, a very smart and outstanding person. So it could be later on she wasn't quite getting into a group, right? Not getting into a group of people. You can see recently, actually, I rarely watch interviews, but I glanced at the interview provided by Fenghuang TV that Zhu Ling's parents could recall when she was recovered a bit after her first poisoning. A student got her water from a kettle. She drank the water without saying anything. When we were in college, we know that we should should drink our own water from our own kettle. So if you drink other people's kettle's water, you'd be considered as taking advantage of others. So surely at that time she was sick, but you can see her parents still remember these details. I don't think I was a close schoolmate to her, like when she was sick for the first time I didn't visit her. For the second time, it was a schoolmate who told me Zhulin is in danger at this time. This schoolmate's name is Hu Bin. I think this schoolmate's name also appears in the book written by Li Jiajia. He has a close relationship to Zhulin, because they were in the same class for a while. I remember in December 1994, when we were just in college, some of our parents started to get sick. Hu Bin told me there were quite a few weird diseases, like Zhulin started to lose her hairs without any reason, and other situations. Also mentioned Zhulin's boyfriend. So she was talking and laughing, but she lost her hairs. He told me her boyfriend was short, like a smart fruit, and that was my impression about her at that time. Then in April 1995, Hu told me Zhu was in hospital again. I said, wow, wasn't she killed? He told me, I don't know, could be a relapse. He told me this time it was severe. She is in ICU now. Bei, you should visit her, because this could be the last chance you can visit her. Hu means is that even if you are not close to her, you should visit her. Was that your first time I visit her? Should be. The time I visited her when she was in ICU, actually before the diagnosis, was this possibly the only time I visited her. Well, later on I went to Xiehe Hospital. I shouldn't have visited Zhulin. I can still clearly remember when I was visiting her, it was the time I had experienced death or severe sickness, because she was truly in ICU. Her clothes, actually her body was just covered with a layer of cloth and many tubes inserted into her body with electrode attached and something wet being put onto her eyes. Then I don't know, to be honest, when I was visiting her, let me say something inauspicious. Well, I say it is like attending a funeral. Every student went inside to visit her for 2 minutes. So when I was there, I was scared, but I couldn't run away. And after 2 minutes, I saw her mom was in deep sorrow. So you can see the development of this incident was interesting. At that point, everybody seems to want someone to introduce some good doctor who may know the syndrome. When it was my turn, I couldn't say much. My family didn't know some good doctors, but I suddenly recalled a classmate mentioned a thing called internet. I said internet was able to connect it to the whole world. I said, is it possible for me to send info over internet? Her mom didn't have knowledge about internet. She said, okay. Saying that would be a good idea. So then I sent this info to a platform. At that time, it wasn't called BBS. It was something similar to BBS, a very old age stuff. The email at that time I couldn't recall. I finished writing in Chinese. Then my mom interpreted, and another person helped translate this email. That person was an official lady who worked in U.S. Embassy in China. I couldn't recall her name, but could be Sharon or something. My mom works in foreign affairs, so she was able to communicate with her in English. I remember at the beginning of this email was, here is Peking University, place of liberty and democracy, but a girl here was seriously ill. My idea was that calling up the sympathy of American people. And that lady say, oh, it was a good language. My mom was explaining while translating. Then we made a software application. Actually, it was simply keyword searching thing. It was to put emails. At that time, there were no email receiving application. Emails were just a huge text on Unix. The app split the huge text into emails one by one. After the split, you would be able to see how many people say it was Guillain-Barré syndrome, how many people say it was thallium poisoning. If a doctor had a further reply to a certain syndrome, we would forward the doctor's reply to the one who discussed this syndrome. And to be honest, it was difficult for us to read these emails. We barely read them using keyword searching. Remember, the process was like every 3 to 4 days, I organized the emails, then telling Zhulin's father, besides some options, one doubt was thallium poisoning. I remembered clearly Zhulin's father laughed over the phone, saying, well, this doubt had been excluded. At that time, it was not absolutely diagnosed. It was not absolutely diagnosed, but misdiagnosed, I would say. Doctor was thinking about something like neuritis. At that time, the primary doctor was Li Shunwei. This I know. I also remember Tsinghua. So let's just follow our talk. Because I think for this part, we can tell a little more. Dr. Li Shunwei, the director of neurology, saying Li Shunwei at the beginning doubted, but later on he said not possible. He, at the beginning, thought it was thallium poisoning, but he didn't think about that part. If it was thallium poisoning, he didn't think there could be two peaks of poisoning, so he didn't think about a possible criminal poisoning. The criminal poisoned the victim at least twice. So Dr. Li Shunwei later on criticized himself a lot, but this revealed one thing. Chinese doctors, sometimes they do have high skills, but they may not follow the procedures. He didn't exclude the root cause one by one. This famous doctor, he said, oh, there could be two peaks. Then it couldn't be heavy metal poison. Fortunately, Zhu Ling's dad said one more. Do you mean all types of heavy metal poisoning were excluded? Dr. Li told him, just watch the medical case. Then I replied to the recipients of this conversation. Later on, my mom also left her phone number. But later on, a US doctor, imperial US doctor, he was really like, racially prejudiced our Chinese. He replied the email using an angry tone. He called my mom as well, criticizing, saying, based on what I know about the skill level of a Chinese doctor, the equipment you have, you are not able to exclude all the types of heavy metal poisoning. This point 1. Point 2, you need to answer them clearly. How did I exclude the thallium poisoning? What this US doctor said, I don't quite believe. He said he doesn't think Xiehe Hospital has the equipment to test thallium poisoning. If they don't have the equipment, you can tell from some observation like white spots. Okay, you could preliminarily determine it was thallium poisoning. Then, if not, you can take a blood sample to Hong Kong. I know a lab can test that. So you can see in total like 18 days from the initial email to the feedback from Xiehe's doctor and to the racist doctor. I'm just joking. He's definitely not a racist. He angrily criticized us, and all the way to I share the US doctor's reply with Zhu Ling's dad, and then maybe 2 to 3 days later until Zhu's dad went to Xiehe to ask the chief doctor. The chief doctor was not nice to him, but a young doctor was nice to him, telling him, oh, I didn't truly test the sample, it was based on experience. Then his dad telling me the detail, then I sent the detail to the forum, and the forum was exploded. People were saying, how dare you can say it was not a thallium poison without a test. At the time, Zhu's dad was searching for, and American people say they can take sample to Hong Kong. And finally, Dr. Chen Zhenyang was reliable. After he tested the sample, he confirmed it was thallium poisoning.